Hi, thank you for joining us today. Welcome back to our podcast. So, we were just talking off air about the debate of diabetes. Is it from eating too much sugar, too much fat? So I said, you know what? This should be the topic for today. So we're going against what we had planned for today because I think this is a very important topic that I think will affect many of you. So, what we were talking about is there are two camps. There's the camp that says that diabetes, insulin resistance is caused from too much sugar. And then there's the camp that says diabetes and insulin resistance is caused from too much fat. And so, Daniel, you were telling me that about a study that you saw. Tell us all about that.
Well, I think you've probably heard of Dr. Neil Bernard, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's in the camp of it's the fat. And he and his team have done research, and they have discovered that when somebody eats a lot of saturated fat, it actually coats the linings of their cells. And so when these people eat something with sugar, when the body produces the insulin to push the sugar into the muscle cells, well, the muscle cells are coated with this lipid layer, and so all the sugar can't get into the cell, and so some of the sugar stays in the bloodstream. And so what they found was if they took these patients and they put them on a low fat, high fiber, plant-based diet, after a week or two, the lipid layer on the cells actually dissolves. And then when they start to eat sugar again, the insulin comes out and the sugar goes into the cell like it's supposed to. And they reverse type 2 diabetes. And then the people, there's these two health coaches that run a shop. Oh God, what's the name of it? Anyway, both these dudes are type 1 diabetics, and they run a health coaching program, and they push a high fruit diet with less than 30 grams of fat per day. And both of these guys are type 1 diabetics, and they were able to reduce their insulin to like very low levels. And then okay, and then the other camp with the keto diets, the high fat diets, people initially will see good results. But if you follow these people, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the road, their blood starts to change back to ill health again. So, and maybe not, it doesn't happen to everybody who's on a high fat diet, but it's like when that fat starts to build up again in the body and the muscles, then everything starts to revert back to like bad blood sugar control and all those different blood markers. So I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I believe it's the fat. I don't know, especially the animal fats.
Right. Right. It's Robbie and let's see, they have Mastering Diabetes. I was trying
That's
to
it. Yeah.
think of their names, but I can't remember.
What is it? Matt, Robbie and Matt.
No, Robbie Barbaro.
I have their book in the next room over here.
Uh, so he has a master's in public health, and then oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember his name. But the other one's doctor. He's a doctor. He has a doctorate in nutrition, I believe.
Yeah, PhD. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So right. And I always listen to Dr. Neil Bernard, and he has a book, something like Mastering Diabetes. And he's, for those of you who don't know, he is the founder of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and PCRM. You can Google that. And he also has a class that's free. It's like 6 weeks long where they teach you how to manage diabetes as well. And it's very interesting. They share lots of recipes and stuff like that too. So if that's something you're interested in, then definitely look into that. So with like, why can't we ever think of his name? Cyrus,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Robbie and Cyrus. So one of my things is there a difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes and how food is managed? I wonder. I've always wondered that because all of the studies that I see that lower the fat and don't worry about carbohydrates they're always with type 1 diabetics. And so I was just curious with type 2 diabetes. That's one of my things in my head. And the other one is, what about plant-based keto? And so plant-based keto still has a lot of fat, but it doesn't have any of the animal products. It doesn't have the inflammatory saturated fats. And so I'm just curious, is there a difference between those, and which is best, so from the one camp, I think for both of them, no processed sugars. There's no processed flours. Processed
Mhm.
flour is sugar. If you have pasta, even if you have a gluten-free pasta, it's made with rice flour, you might as well be eating sugar. That's your body sees that as sugar. As soon as it hits your mouth, it's absorbed the way sugar is. And so both parties, whether you're the keto or, well, keto, you would never eat pasta, but both camps are no sugars, refined foods, and things like that. And so we're talking about eating clean, just which is best, the low sugar or the low fat. And even with the low carbs, you still, if you're eating a plant-based keto, you would still eat lots of greens and lots of vegetables, just not as many starchy vegetables, and not the high glycemic fruits, not tropical fruits and things like that. But I've also seen where once you get the insulin receptors cleaned out, if you will, that you can eat those foods, that it's fine to eat those foods, not saturated fats, not animal fats, no dairy on either one, the plant-based keto or the low fat keto, both of
Mhm.
those.
Well, I've seen another study where the saturated fats found in animal foods actually destroys the islet cells in the pancreas. This is Dr. Greg, a video on Dr. Greger's website. I couldn't, I mean, that was shocking. And so,
Yes. Yes, yes. So I like to think of those as like a door. So the door is getting stuck, and then the hinges are getting broken, and they're getting more and more broken, and then you can't even open the door.
another thing about the low fat plant-based diet, my dad, when he was alive, he had a heart attack. I think he was around 73. And I convinced him to go on the Esselstyn diet. So he and my mom went on it. And man, you want to talk about dropping some weight. I mean, if you go low fat, plant-based diet, you will drop weight. It's like you get a tapeworm.
Nah. Now,
It's,
what was the transition? Like, how was he eating before?
oh God, he was eating whatever he wanted. He loved to eat peanut butter and crackers, but he would eat the peanut butter with the hydrogenated oil. He would eat pizza. He would eat meat. He would eat whatever he wanted. You know what I mean?
Okay, so it was a big change, which I see
Oh yeah.
that. I see that anybody going from standard American diet to plant-based, you drop weight fast and then you plateau.
Yeah.
Yes, but I could see a lot of changes would happen quickly, but then I wonder long term, um, too. Like what? Like I love Dr. Esselstyn's pictures, especially with heart disease. He has the pictures showing how um how it reverses. The heart disease actually reverses, which is fabulous. But I'm just curious about the blood sugar piece too. And I've been studying this for how long? 30 years?
Yeah.
Almost 28 years. And I still get confused. It's
Yeah.
now for me, my A1C is 4.8, so I'm not concerned for me. But if somebody had, I'm going to just try to play devil's advocate. If somebody were they had the genes for high cholesterol, some people do. And they've shown, even the plant-based cardiologists will say there are some people who they really can't manage it with food. Now, does that mean they're going to have a heart attack later on? No. We're learning more and more about cholesterol. But if they had high blood sugar, if I look at the plant-based keto plan, then you're giving them a lot of fat. And I wouldn't give someone who already has a lot of cholesterol, a lot of fat. Well, this can go into a whole nother thing because we could talk about cholesterol. That cholesterol is huge. Anyway, they tell people with high cholesterol not to eat a lot of fat. And so that's somebody who you would not want to put on a plant-based keto because you don't want to give them a lot of fat because they already have high cholesterol. So then if we switch them to the higher carb, lower fat, I'm just curious what's gonna happen with like triglycerides and cholesterol that way. Of course, if they're going from a standard American diet to plant-based, they're cleaning everything up, they're eating anti-inflammatory foods, and that should help too. So I'm kind of answering my own question here.
It is a very interesting concept. You have your high carb, low fat, you have your keto plant-based, but there's also a middle ground somewhere, has to be. You could do a
Mhm.
lower carb plant-based diet with less fat.
Right,
And
right. And then I'm also thinking about someone with someone who has autoimmune conditions. Someone has an autoimmune condition, they have high blood sugar, they have high cholesterol. And it's like, how do you choose? They need to eat anti-inflammatory for sure. So traditional keto would definitely be out.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely out. No animal products, no dairy, no gluten. Psh, gone. If her autoimmune. So if someone went from standard American to just that would probably reduce all of their numbers right there.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
probably.
But if they already are eating plant-based and gluten-free, but they still have high blood markers and high cholesterol, a lot of it could just be from inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it doesn't really matter which one they choose. Is really cleaning up the diet and focusing on inflammatory foods. Now, for someone who was in that condition, they had autoimmune condition and they had high cholesterol and they had high blood sugar, even if they were already gluten-free, dairy-free, no animal products, I think I would still aim more towards a plant-based keto where the fats were the omega-3 fats for those anti-inflammatory properties versus the starchy vegetables. I think for someone in that condition, the anti-inflammatory effects of walnuts, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds would be more important than the vitamins and minerals that you get from the starchy foods. But I would also only do it temporarily, like only until we get things under control, because those starchy foods, sweet potatoes, very high in vitamin A and fiber. I mean, those are so important to get. And so I would not want anyone to not eat carrots, sweet potatoes, fruits. All your vitamins are in your fruits. And so I wouldn't want someone to not have those, be afraid to eat those foods. And so it was something I would just do that temporarily until some numbers improve.
Yeah, that's what I noticed even with the Mastering Diabetes plan, they talk about that where initially some people they can't handle the fruit.
Yeah.
So they'll put them on, more salads and things until the fat starts to decrease. And then after usually around 2 weeks, then they can feed them the fruit again, and then their body's able to handle it. It's so I think
Right.
for most people, I think it is wise for most people who are really sick. I think it's wise to start them on a more lower carb, like you're saying, you know,
Hmm.
to get that cleaned up.
Yeah, and focus on the anti-inflammatory, which can also help with the cholesterol. So even though I believe, I don't know, um,
I
I
think,
I think that would help because I think cholesterol is your body protecting itself, which is why I said that's such another topic that would be great to debate. But the body is producing cholesterol to protect itself when when we add high greens, high nutrient dense vegetables, then we're going to be helping with that inflammation and reducing cholesterol and blood sugar at the same time.
I really think the inflammation is a huge, huge thing with any disease. I mean, my somebody in my life right now he's showing signs of dementia, and I've been working with him. God, I have him all. I mean, I have him on the cleansing kit, and I have him on specific herbs. And he found something himself. It like a CBD gummy I want to say CBD is anti-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it is, I haven't seen it, but whatever it is, he's doing better. I also have him, and I don't, and, we talk about trying to do whole foods as much as possible. But I saw a study where they had people with dementia. I don't go off topic, but they put them on niacin amide, and a lot of people get really good results. And I don't know how it works, but it probably has some kind of anti-inflammatory properties on the brain.
It must. That
I
helps
don't
with
know.
detoxification. That helps with liver cleansing.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's doing better. Like it's been going on for a few months, and I'm telling you, I really believe that inflammation has a huge role. And if we can just get that down, I think most
Yeah.
of your diseases will get better.
Now, a lot of dementia is tied not only to inflammation, but also poor sleep and sugar.
Yeah.
And so, how is he eating now to help improve markers?
Well, he was a chemist, so I had to sell him the science. So
Yeah.
I got him a book written by these two medical doctors, on dementia. Is a plant-based diet, no sugar, no processed sugar. It's based off of fruits and vegetables, your whole grains. I think there's some avocado in there. But anyway, he got that book and he's like, wow, this has so much scientific reference. So he's like excited. That's the way he's eating now.
Mhm.
Now he did go back. Now he's eating some meat here and there again, but he's mostly plant-based.
Mhm.
But he's doing something right, because I've seen him a few weeks ago. I was really worried because we would be at dance class and he would just be in another world. Like he doesn't know where he's at.
Oh no. Yeah.
But then the last few weeks, he's more coherent. He's like he can concentrate. He's actually starting to remember things again, which is I'm excited. I'm hopeful for him.
Now, is
So
this the doctor? You said two doctors. Is it like Shirzah or Shiraz or something? There's a husband and wife, two doctors, or is it? Do you remember the name of the book or who the authors were?
oh God, Jennifer, I don't I want to say I found it on Amazon. I want to say it's an Alzheimer's solution, maybe.
Hmm. Okay. I know
Um
that there's a husband and wife team that are
it may
plant-based,
it may
that are
be
both
them.
doctors, but I don't remember the name of their book. But
It's
it's the
probably
same.
it's probably them.
It
Mhm.
might be. Mhm.
Um But I've tried to help him years ago. I try to get him to go plant-based years ago. Well, I don't know. I just don't believe that. Okay. I was showing him studies then, but at that point he was feeling good. He didn't want to believe it. But then when he starts to lose his mind, he's ready to look at it again. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Because he's got vascular dementia because he had a stroke a few years ago and they found plaque in his carotid arteries, which 90% of dementia is vascular issues, which most people have vascular issues because of the diet.
Right. Right.
And if your brain's not getting enough blood flow, it's going to start to die. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and niacin would help with the blood flow too. I
Yeah.
was thinking about nitric oxide too.
Yes.
Yeah, so I
Beet,
didn't know.
beet powder,
Mhm.
things like that, greens.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what he's doing. Like I know that he's on my herbal regimen and I'm
Mhm.
praying he's doing the diet, but I have him, Jennifer, we're from the same school. I have him on the cleansing kit. I have him on probably 15 different formulas from Dr. Christopher, but
Mhm.
this is one of those things where this is like, when you get something that bad, you have to be very aggressive or
Right.
you don't have a chance to reverse it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
You don't want to wait until it's gone too far.
no, because then what? Is he got to move in? I have to move in with him or something. You know what I mean? Because
Right. Right. Yeah. I'll need
which I'll do
plan.
if I have to, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. So let's get back to the controversy. So with the cell receptors, so I've heard that sugar can gum up the cell receptors, and which interferes with insulin getting in. So if we have too much, oh my gosh, I have too many things going on in my brain at the same time. So there's sugar that's damaging them. If we keep eating several times a day, if you eat, 5, 6 meals a day, then that's that many times we have to get glucose moving into the cells. So that can start to wear out your cell receptors. But then I was also, I need to write things down as they pop up, because I had so many things swirling in my head at the same time. Anyway, the with the cell receptors, I was worried about that with the sugar. We're eating too much. We're not sleeping. If we're not sleeping, then we're not taking the time to clean up the brain. We're going to throw off our circadian rhythm. We're going to have cortisol at the wrong time of the day peaking. We're going to have melatonin peaking at the wrong time. But when the cortisol peaks at the wrong time, then you have sugar cravings. And so then we're craving the wrong foods. I don't like to call foods good foods or bad foods, but then you are craving more of the sugary foods. And then if you're under stress, so stress can also injure those cell receptors. So sometimes maybe it's just, maybe it doesn't matter which way you're eating as far as the insulin receptors go. Maybe it's all stress related, because cortisol damages everything. Cortisol, it brings all the sugar into the blood. It prevents the insulin from coming out, so insulin can't carry everything into the blood cells. It's, you want to be able to run and fight, and it just slows everything down. When you're stressed, the cortisol triggers all these different hormones to slow down digestion, so then you're not getting the nutrients you need. It sets you up for disaster. So maybe it's more about that too, which we don't talk about, which isn't mentioned enough. Maybe if you're eating, as long as you're eating clean, as in not the added sugars and not the refined foods, maybe it doesn't matter as much, just a balanced diet.
It's a good point, because I think you and I have been trained to look at the whole picture.
Mhm.
And how many people do you know anybody that doesn't have a life full of stress these days?
No.
I mean, it's like, that's like the stealth killer, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And I agree. If you could look, you could eat the best in the world, but if you're under stress and your body's throwing cortisol 24/7, until you get that under control,
Yeah.
I mean, the diet will help you, definitely, but
Right.
you
Right.
have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, with Esselstyn, they just did the studies. They just did the diet. They didn't worry about stress relief or anything. But then you look at the other cardiologists way back. The pioneer, he was Dr. Oh God. Anyway, the first doctor who figured out you could reverse heart disease, his program was plant-based and stress relief and exercise. He looked at
Saturday
everything.
Ornish.
Yeah, Ornish.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looked at everything. And then Esselstyn goes, well, I just want to see just what the diet will do. And so he just did the diet, and it worked too.
Mm-hmm.
But did it work as well? I don't know. I mean, it worked good, but did it work as good as Ornish's program, where he looked at everything? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I mean, I just think you should never ignore your stress. You shouldn't ignore your stress. You shouldn't ignore if you're in an abusive relationship or you're having an abusive boss. You have to look at all these things, because, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And looking at the schedule.
yeah.
Yeah. Rearranging your schedule, prioritize,
hmm
make your health a priority.
It has to be. That's a problem. I think this country spends more money on healthcare than any other country, and we are the sickest country. Now think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah. I kind of think that we're on the verge of a collapse
I do.
somewhere
Mm,
as far as the medical system goes.
yeah.
I know that's off topic, but more and more doctors are leaving and starting their own private practice that's not driven by insurance, so that they can do what they know they need to do to help patients. Yeah. And so I like to see that trend.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a profit. I mean, the healing business should never have been a profit system.
Right.
When they put profits in, the patients took a back seat, and that's why everybody. I mean, the people that I work with, I know the people you work with, they've been going to the doctors for years, and they feel crappier every single year.
They're not getting the answers that they need.
Yep.
Right. Right. Yeah. Doctors aren't talking to people about getting sleep, managing stress, And if they're talking about changing their diet, then they're talking about whatever they saw on the news, whatever.
Oh,
They don't take nutrition classes,
yeah.
and they don't have time to go and take nutrition classes. And when they need to do continuing education, they only have a limited amount of time. They need to pick something that's related to their specialty. And so they're not looking at the whole picture. They're only looking at their specialty. And so they're learning the same way as the general public. They're not They're not looking at um, the real nutrition and how it affects the body.
And also, you talk about teaching about sleep and stress. Well, most of your doctors are some of the most stressed out people in the world. So they're definitely, how can they recommend something they can't do? You know what I mean?
Right.
I would never recommend something I don't do just to a client. I mean, if I recommend something, I have done it before.
Right. Yeah. I have to put myself through it
Yeah.
first. Or I tell them, I've read this, I haven't done this. You may
Mhm.
want to look into this, but I
Yeah.
don't suggest they do it. I just say this is something that you may want to look into, that I've read this. Anyway, I think we have drifted enough away. We still don't have any answers about the which is best, the higher carb, complex carb, low fat, or the plant-based keto, definitely not keto, but a plant-based keto with a higher essential fats and greens. I don't know which is the best way, but I think that either is temporary until everything's normalized, because you don't want to go too low fat. If you eat high complex carb and low fat, that's really great. But if you have any form of inflammation, then it may be important to add those essential fats, hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, chlorella, spirulina, walnuts, those things. So you want to make sure that the fat you do eat is a good source of healthy fat, especially to help with absorbing your your fat soluble vitamins, to help lubricate your joints, and to help with any inflammation. And so you can eat lower fat, but don't go too low. Like, don't eliminate all fats. You still need those, especially I worry about like fruitarians. um Fruitarians are not getting all of the nutrients they need. You have to get minerals, and there aren't a lot of minerals in your fruit. And so I worry about people who only eat fruit, for sure, because fruit is just too low fat and too low in minerals. Loads of vitamins, they're fabulous, but I wouldn't go too long term on just eating fruits. I don't know your opinion on that.
Well, every fruitarian I've ever seen, they look like skeletons. So that tells me that they're malnourished,
Right, right.
You're not supposed to look like that. I mean, we're talking like 125-pound, 5'10" dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So no, I've never been on the fruitarian bandwagon. It's just not balanced.
Right, right. And so there
Uh,
are ways to eat lower fat, but don't eliminate your fats. Now there
yeah.
are fats in fruits and vegetables too, and so there's that too. But I don't
Yeah.
think there's quite enough not to have some nuts or seeds.
Oh yeah, I've always had flax in my diet.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Black, Kali. I eat more towards a plant-based keto, not plant-based keto. I don't eat that high fat,
Yeah.
but I love nuts and seeds. So yes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and tune in next time. We're gonna definitely have to touch on the cholesterol issue.
See you next week.